right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Senator John McCain and the author of the new book, 13 Soldiers, A Personal History of Americans at War. All right, let me ask you, the president said the other day that he's going to go ahead and issue an executive order on immigration reform. Some senators have come forward and said, you know, don't do that. You've heard all the remarks, Boehner, McConnell, and Ted Cruz, everybody across the spectrum. If he does it, what does that mean?
It means that it's going to dramatically harm the chances for comprehensive immigration reform, and makes you question really how interested or committed he is to that. Because if he would wait some months, and a few months wouldn't matter either way, after all, we've been at this effort for a long time, then maybe John Boehner, with an increased number of representatives, Republicans in the House of Representatives, would be able to move forward in some fashion. It doesn't have to be the way we did it in the Senate, but maybe some parts of it or some aspects of immigration reform. But if he comes out with the executive order that many of us, including me, believes is unconstitutional, then I think he's going to harm the effort really badly. And some of us, Lindsey Graham and I and Marco Rubio, wrote a letter to the president asking him, saying, please don't do this now. We were part of this gang of 8 that came up with it. So all I can say is it's very disheartening.
And when he says that then you guys could pass a bill that he'll sign, well, not necessarily, right? He's saying, just pass it, I'll sign it. If he doesn't like it, he won't sign it.
And since when is that the way to govern?
Right, it's backwards.
Help me out. Did our founding fathers say the President of the United States should issue an executive order, and then he'd be willing to cancel that executive order if a piece of legislation, I've read a lot about the founders of the Constitution and a lot about that
never saw that one got by you, right?
I never saw that one at all. And so the president seems to be in some state of denial, and we need to govern. We Republicans need to show we can govern. And he can end up, for the last 2 years of his presidency, in much better shape if we would sit down. Look at what Bill Clinton did in the 90s when we gained the majority in the House and Senate. We got a lot done.
Loretta Lynch, the president's choice for Attorney General. I think even Orrin Hatch came out today and said, you can't do this during a lame duck session. What's your take on that? Do you think the president's entitled to his pick, so it doesn't matter when it's done, or should he wait?
I think elections have consequences, and therefore you give his nominees the benefit of the doubt. Doesn't mean you're a rubber stamp, but I voted in favor of some of his nominees who I would never have submitted to the Senate, but that's our job, advise and consent. And again, why not wait until you have a new Senate where we can look at this with some time to examine? It's one of the most important positions there is. And I would imagine from my first glance at her credentials that she would get approved by the Senate. This is a very outstanding young woman from everything that I can tell.
You're poised to become chairman of the Armed Services Committee. And of course, foreign policy has been questionable, to say the least. What would you look to change, if you could, in that position?
The United States has never looked weaker in the world in the 20th or 21st century. I would work closely with Bob Corker, who's going to be chairman of Foreign Relations, Richard Burr, who is going to be the chairman of Intelligence, Ron Johnson, Homeland Security, and Lindsey Graham, who's going to play a key role in appropriations. We're all going to work together. We're going to have a common agenda. We're going to try to get this nation back on the right course again. In my view, my first priority is repeal sequestration, which is harming our military terribly.
What about Iran? The president wrote a letter, okay? Not the first time, and today we see that the Ayatollah, or the president of Iran, tweeted out how they're going to destroy Israel. It's almost as if, it's almost kind of a, support for that when the president acts the way he does.
People like the Iranians are encouraged by weakness, just as Vladimir Putin is now practicing more adventurism in Ukraine, taking over more areas, reports and tanks and artillery going into Ukraine.
Can he sign a deal without the Senate consenting to it with Iran?
He thinks that he can. But what we want to do in the Senate is pass a resolution requiring, a binding resolution requiring advice and consent of the Senate. Look, just the fact that we are agreeing that they have the right to enrich is a concession that sooner or later means that they will have a nuclear weapon.
And the IAEA said yesterday they're
That
still
they're
headed
not
to a nuke.
complying- Yes,
Yeah.
and that they're not complying
Yeah.
with the requests of the IAEA. They have this crazy idea that if they get this nuclear agreement with Iran, then Iran will side with us against ISIS and in all
Right,
kinds of
right.
areas. Do you really believe that of these people? I mean, that is, I don't
Crazy?
know. Yeah, it's just out of touch with the reality of who these people are. Look, they're the ones that support Hezbollah. They're the ones that support
Absolutely.
terrorists. They're the ones that have done every kinds of things. They're the ones that support Hamas, which
Senator,
is the
I
sworn
wish I
enemy
could
of
talk to you
Israel.
for the next
Thank-
hour. You'll
thank-
come back, if not on the
Love
here
to.
on the phone or Skype or something. Senator
to.
John McCain, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much,
Thank you.
sir. All right,
Thank
we're
you.
coming back with Lanny Davis. Don't go away.